Some things are similar, and some things are strange. Hi, I'm Carrie, and with me is Jeezy. This is Talking Distance. Anyway, let's get right into it.
Tonight's movie is a 1988 classic, Slugs. This movie is about killer slugs, and I'll read the description here. It all began in a sleepy Midwestern community, a place that had never known evil until now, But years ago, in stillness beneath the waters, something sinister happened. And now its deadly spawn are emerging. ...
Far too many dots indeed.
You like 80s movies?
I love 80s movies. I think they're truly great genre.
All classic horror movies come from the 80s. There is no other era quite like it. Or do you disagree? Or
Some of the greatest movies we've ever had have come out in the 80s. Some that were just truly memorable. Some involved a boy in a very strange DeLorean-styled car. But we have many, many horror movies from that. So many, in fact, it's just unreal. Anyway.
Alright, I love the way it starts out. The picture's set with the classic a teenage couple on a lake. It's kind of, I don't know, cliche, but this whole movie feels like a cliche, almost in a good way. But do you think the beginning's too cheesy, or do you think this was a cheesy movie? What do you think?
I think it's a romantic comedy.
It's a romantic comedy.
Yeah, it's a different sort of romantic comedy, but it's a romantic comedy. See, they there's so many love affairs that are just really unknown. They're really unknown loves. And they have to put themselves through a trial in order to really test love for themselves.
And if anybody's seen these shows or movies, they're really quite similar. Twin Peaks, the way that all the voice overs are dubbed and the voices don't match up. I really appreciate that, except for the main characters. Everybody's voices were dubbed, and it just kind of like gave it that classic feel, but a lot like Twin Peaks style. And if people are familiar with Danger 5, I think this was a comedy because some of the deaths were just insane. The overall plot of this movie, you want to tell us?
So the plot. So imagine that the entire neighborhood, if not the entire city, was a giant organism. That organism would need blood flowing in through its veins in order to, actually move around and live. Well, that's exactly what was going on, but in the sewers. This small beast, the slug, as it would be. The slug, of course,
The slug is the main
the classic slug piece. They just sort of multiplied, growing and growing.
And this guy's main job is to just go in the sewers and investigate them. His job is to just know the sewers, I guess. Reports of slugs are pouring throughout the city. These slugs start turning up in random places, people's windowsills, homeless guy's stomach. Everybody's a victim to these, even the little gerbils in the science lab. But it turns out that these slugs, they have a taste for human flesh. That's right, you heard it, folks. These slugs have a taste for human flesh, and at one point, they start laying eggs in people's bellies. There's a lot of gore for a comedy.
So, for those of you that are, familiar with the torn or busted skin, I don't know exactly how it works, per se, but they use it in Carpenter's films, like Hellraiser. Something where it's just, or Alien, where something busts through something, an actual model, and it's something beautiful to that. I don't know. I like the shot of Mike Brady with his sewage checking friend.
I appreciated the older couple with the greenhouse. That I really appreciated that scene. It was very 50s-esque style, but this poor guy and his wife is ordering him all around to tend to her greenhouse. Meanwhile, vacuuming while smoking a cigarette, while listening to show tunes, while also drinking at the same time, and it is a great scene. And how he dies, imagine you enter someone's greenhouse. You enter someone's greenhouse, and
you walk in the door. You see a body on the ground. It's shaking. It's moving. It's screaming at you. All you want to do is run out of the room, but you can't because you're there. And this is the moment. The moment you see a grown man striking at his arm to get a glove off with an axe.
Like the movie with James Franco, the 24 hours, or what was it, 32 hours, or what was it called? Something, like a lot of hours. Where James Franco is in The Rock, and he's got to cut off his own hand. You know. Let's look up the movie real quick. Hold on.
That movie always scared the living crap out of me.
You can tell we're very organized here.
Very organized. We're trying to make things work. Put two and two together. It's a beautiful
Whoa,
combo.
127 hours. That's the name of the movie.
127 hours.
I thought it was 24 hours.
No. There's.
So it is 120. Say it.
So it is 127 hours.
I need more vodka.
Oh God.
Poor guy, right? Let's talk about the victims in this movie. I'll give you the victims here, Carrie. The first victim, a homeless man who's stumbling around, finds a stray dog. We don't know what's wrong with this guy, but he's off. He goes home, and then we have no idea what happens because the camera pans the other way. But we later find out that, yes, slugs laid eggs in him, okay? We have the older couple with the greenhouse, and one of the slugs enters his glove. And then he proceeds to cut off his hand like 127 hours. The guy who eats the slug and the lettuce that his drunk wife makes him. And then we have the young couple who are having sex. Bobby! They get slaughtered by slugs. Slugs are on the floor. Slugs are everywhere. Once they're grown and multiplied and cover your room, you're done. What was your favorite?
You know, I'd have to say that one, actually, is truly my favorite. You really do see Bobby's character. You go from Bobby being confident. He is actually nude in this shot.
You see bare
You
ass.
see deadpan from the back of the bed.
Bare
just like
ass.
bare ass. It's not. It's an effective shot. Let's just say that.
Bobby!
So they both get up, sort of, and she touches the floor, immediately screaming as she does so. And Bobby starts kind of freaking out. He can't just figure out what's going on. Why she's screaming so loud and what's it all about. So she's freaking out. She's moving around. Then she falls directly onto the floor, face first.
And then he tries to escape, and when he looks back, her eyeball's hanging out. Like, why in every 80s horror movie, if you're having sex, you're done for? Have you noticed that? Friday the 13th, you're having sex, you're done.
You know, it was kind of a means to satisfy the parents. Yeah. The parents watching that, like, were probably just like, I don't want my kid having sex. And then they watch that and they're like, good, they're learning a lesson. Good.
If you're
having
sex,
you're dead.
You're dead.
So you can have the worst terrors in the world, and they will kill you as you're having, intimacies. So I don't know. It's something kind of cheesy, but it works.
I guess the one downside in this movie, but there really isn't any quotable lines in this movie. Unless you can think of any. Yeah. So besides Slugs, which I suggest everybody check out because it is a great movie. We're not going to spoil the ending for you. You're just going to have to go watch it yourself. It's pretty great. There's actual real explosions in this movie, which is awesome.
So the explosions. First thing we see is a droplet of highly acidic, or maybe it's a high base. Either way, it's a highly acidic droppy. Drops it on one of the slugs, and the slug just goes off like
the methane or whatever.
Yeah, it goes off like a bullet in a microwave. But it's not until later on in the film that you're actually seeing any sort of like explosions. And then, to be fair, it was really seemed like maybe one or two sets that just kind of blew up. But I think that the effectiveness of those shots were particularly well executed.
Like, you don't see these shots in movies nowadays. They're really unique shots, and they're, like, really effective. Also, the music in this, kind of cliche a little bit, but that's why I think it's a comedy. Would you like to rate this title?
I think I would probably rate it probably a 4. I'd give it a 4.
What?
No, okay, so hear me out. Of a scale of 10. Well, I'm comparing it to everything I've ever seen as far as like a horror movie. Yeah, like I can't scale that down. It's close to the middle of the pack. It's getting there, but it's not a great movie, but it's not a dull movie. It's somewhere.
It's watchable.
It's watchable. You can watch it and you'd be satisfied probably by the end of it, but it's not a great movie.
But yeah, you wouldn't be taking anything away from this movie. But the Jeezy opinion on this movie, I'd rate this like a light 6, maybe a 5, but I rated a 6 because I think it's good, and I think there's a lot of scenes that can be appreciated. Not in my top 10, but maybe in my top 40 or 50. Maybe it's like 45. I don't know. Anyway.
Nothing quite like it. But I think that's our time.
The ending.
This is Talking Distance with Carrie and Nick. Have a good night.